What is up, guys? Welcome to the Unfazed Facts Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things Gym Leader Challenge. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Benson, and I'm here with Jeff Baisch. And dude's looking a little creepy today.
What? Yeah, dude. I'm gonna say I get that all the time. People are like,
So
calling to me, Baisch, dude, you look like such a creep. And when the beard grows long, you know what happens.
No, bro. I think one of the reasons why you look so creepy today, as well as myself, is because we're going to talk about a little bit of Gym Leader Challenge and the effects of power creep over time.
Yeah, dude. This is one I've been wanting to talk about for a while. It's one that gets brought up a lot. Power creep, and there's nothing you can do.
Creep.
It's not Jeff Creep. No. There's nothing we can do about power creep, dude. So it makes me a little sad. We'll get why it sucks in a bit, but this is one that's been on my brain for a while, Josh. You want to talk about power creep?
No.
No one does. Well, this one is set in the closet.
Dude, I honestly think power creep is, both good and bad, because there are times where there's a, Pokemon in the format that was really weak, and then they get a little bump up and then immediately puts them into the meta. You're able to play some of your favorite Pokemon. Like there for a while, Metagross was terrible, absolutely terrible, until Silver Tempest, I believe. And you had the emergency entry one, and it kind of got a little bit better, had that really cool ability. And the Metang got a little bit of a bump, kind of put it into the meta, but they're not overpowered for sure. They're pretty, they're not OP whatsoever, but they got that little bump to put them in there. So I'd like to see, if we're going to talk about power creep and stuff, is look at power creep and kind of look at the cards that don't necessarily get the love that that other cards usually get. Because we're going to look at some cards today that definitely have, it's like, oh, you just power creep this. Now you're going to power creep it again, right? Yep. So I think some of those older, weaker cards that do need a little bit of bump, I'm glad to see them get a bump. But other times, usually it's like, a lot of they're printing a bunch of cards right now that can hit for some huge damage. And mainly because the standard format right now has a lot. I mean, we're getting upwards 360, 390 HP on some like stage 2 Pokemon, stage 1 Pokemon in standard format right now. And it's kind of driving the need to let single prizers come up out of the woodwork, right? So you have a bunch of single prizers that can hit just for massive numbers, which, is cool and not cool at the same time.
Yeah.
I say that, and I'm a Wailord player.
Whatever. Wailord's fine. But, you bring up cards like Metagross. Like, Metagross to me seems like such a good and balanced card. Like, the hoops you have to go through to make Metagross work, definitely, it's a good payoff. It's a good card. It's good, decent stats for what it is. But, it's just so balanced for what you have to do to get it onto the battlefield. So, when you say Metagross, that to me is just an example of not power creep, but just a good card that's going to fit into the format and maybe be a role player, but definitely has opportunities to shine. I mean, we're going to see cards that one card was hitting for 120 back in 2021, and all of a sudden that same card gets reprinted, and all of a sudden it's better statted, hidden for higher numbers, easier to get charged up, and it's got a busted ability on a basic. I mean, we're going to see cards that just whoosh, zoomed to the sky. And that's to me is one of the things about power creep. There's not a lot of consistency to it. Just things pop up randomly every now and then, and we just sit back and accept it, and we say, thank you, Pokemon. We appreciate it.
Yes. I hear you. Oh, look at that.
I love this. Yeah, for those
for those of you that do not see this and are just listening, we got one of Jeff's favorite songs, a picture from one of his favorite music videos on the screen right now.
Yeah, very well done by the Lonely Island, The Creep, featuring Nicki Minaj. If you get a chance, go YouTube it. Definitely a good watch here and there. Very well done for a comedy hip-hop song. I should say hip-hop, maybe more of a pop song, but it does have Nicki Minaj, and it's got good moments, so check it out. It's a good one.
Yeah, I know it's more parody type stuff that they did, But was it pop? Was it rap? Was it indie? Like what
It's
was it?
everything, man. It's just good. That's what I enjoyed about it. They didn't keep themselves in the one box. They kind of expanded out. They collabed with everyone. It was it was funny. It had its moments. Some songs weren't that funny, but you're not always going to have tens, and they weren't afraid not to be tens. And then everything that the Lonely Island did, I really appreciated. Back in the day, there was a parody spoof movie about metal music, Spinal Tap. Did you ever see Spinal Tap, Josh?
I did not.
Oh, it's where if you've ever seen the memes where it's like, take that to 11. The guy has an amp, and instead of going up to like 10, it goes to 11. He's like, if I need one louder, I go up to 11. But anyway, that's like the original musical parody movie. And then, of course, The Lonely Island did one, Never Stop Stopping, I think was it. It was kind of like a Justin Bieber parody, which I really enjoyed too. So like, that's just such my humor. You can tell I'm a 90s millennial kid when it comes to these sorts of things. But yeah, check it out. If you guys like The Lonely Island, check out Never Stop Stopping. It's a good movie.
Yeah, they throw lots of things onto the ground for sure. They don't take any handouts.
Throw it on the ground.
So, just a simple definition, and courtesy of Jeff here, finding this meme and putting this together, which, by the way, Jeff put a lot of these slides together this time around. I have been really busy, and he's off for fall break. Congratulations. Very nice. But we have, defined power creep, and it's just cards getting gooder over time. And sometimes that time could be 15, 20 years. Sometimes it could be 10, 5. It really doesn't matter. If they take a Pokemon that we have been playing from, 130 HP to 140, if their damage is up to by 10, that is an example of power creep. Different effects and abilities also added to the Pokemon can make them better. Oh yeah, right here. Very easy. It's very similar to Kaioken and to Ultra Instinct. And like I was saying earlier about the example, just a very simple example of Metagross having like cards that don't really have any good effects, no really good attacks, and anything like that. Well, the new Metagross from Silver Tempest has a better effect on its ability. It has not necessarily faster gameplay, but also at the same time, very fast gameplay. If you draw into at the beginning of your turn, the ability to let you put it straight onto your bench and you draw 3. And honestly, that is very fast, and it just has good stats. And we're going to get into, a little bit further on into the podcast about like different cards that have these different effects and different stats and how it makes them better.
Yeah. And I mean, those examples will be like very specific, whereas right now we're just kind of doing a general overview of what power creep is. And, Josh, you keep alluding to it. It can be good. It can be bad. What is really power creep? And you bring up the Metagross example, but like I view it kind of as like, something that didn't necessarily exist in the format ahead of time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it pops up, and now it's kind of pushing other cards out of the format. And something that we've said, or at least I've said for, a couple of episodes now, and I can't even remember where I heard it from, but, the more cards that you get into a format, you actually get less playable cards just because of the amount of powerful cards there are to contend with, right? So you just keep getting these more powerful cards, and you have to play those cards if you're looking to be competitive, or you have to play cards that counteract those cards, and that just leaves so many other cards just sitting in the binder, sitting in the box in your closet that you just can't bring out. They just don't cut it anymore. It happens in every card game, and Pokemon is obviously no different than the rest.
Yeah, just sitting in your heart. Like, we're going to see Blastoise later, and Blastoise is just sitting in my heart right now.
I'm still playing my Blastoise.
You can. It's not illegal. You can do it. Jeff, let us know a little bit of, why power creep in GLC sucks.
Yeah. I mean, why it can suck, right? I don't want to talk too negatively about it, because power creep, again, natural progression of any card game is you're going to have power creep, right? Pokemon wants to make money. They're going to keep printing good cards. Good cards sell packs. Good cards get people interested in the game. It keeps your card game alive. It keeps people coming to the store to play with you. So again, I don't want to view power creep too negatively, but it definitely can suck. All right. And this segment I wished was sponsored by like Hoover or Dyson. So if you're a vacuum manufacturer and you're looking to sponsor a segment, you can sponsor the Baisch's Why It Can Suck segment. Just, something to think about for you if you're a GLC player that also happens to run a vacuum industry. But hey, first off, favorite cards become unplayable. All right. That's like number one for all of us. We want our cards to be good. And selfishly, yes, I want that. It's not always going to be the case, but that's the reason why I want to play card games. It's the reason why I get involved. It's the reason why I organize events the way I do. And when my favorite card can't be played anymore, I'm going to get a little sad, Josh. I'm going to get sad.
Yeah. Yeah, especially whenever you like invest into, some bling into your deck. And sometimes those blingy cards are not cheap. And you just bought it. The next set, they announce a card and it's better. You could play both of them. But sometimes deep down in your heart, competitively, this probably isn't the way to go, and that's one of the reasons why it's not as fun. But like you said, your favorite cards, your favorite Pokemon, could just be pushed out because of those new cards that are coming in.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to the best of us. Free prize Crobat is a card that's really hard to pull off. The fact that fighting has become so good means that playing 40 HP free retreat Zubat is just super difficult. Plus, it's weak to fighting, even though it's a flying type. I mean, oh gosh, I just feel like that card is just getting pushed out. Maybe Dark is getting pushed out a little bit too. But our next point up here stifles deck building creativity. And again, hey, we get it. Well, if you want to be competitive, you got to play good cards, right? So this isn't us being like, you can't brew in the format. You definitely can still brew. But when you're thinking of like peak competitive player, when you're thinking about your locals and you're thinking about how to tech, you might have a spicy card you want to play. But if it just gets countered, or if there's just a more powerful card out there that card can't contend with, I mean, you're going to sit there, you're going to go, I don't think that really fits into what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to play this other powerful card instead. And it just kind of becomes, when you got a list of cards you must play, you lose out on the cards you want to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Not being able to play certain spicy cards because sometimes those spicy cards are geared at one or two decks in the format. And right now in this specific time, each deck can have a plethora of different ways they can play. So if you're trying to, let's say, play a card that slows something down, right? Like Enhanced Hammer. Enhanced Hammer is a great card, but sometimes it's also a meta call because you may be in a meta that doesn't play any special energy and you just have that dead card in your hand now, right? Because maybe they printed a good basic that doesn't even need a good special energy. That's probably not the best example, but that's just a super simple example of like a card that you might not be able to play anymore because, this new card was introduced just a nice basic energy heavy format. Hydro Pump plays a lot of basic energy and very little special energy. And when they play it, usually it's, maybe mid game, late game, and you've already went through this, discarded the Enhanced Hammer or something like that, thinking that you don't really need it. So,
yeah. And a card I think of that perfectly also defines this besides Enhanced Hammer is like maybe a card like Rhyme, right? Like Rhyme is such a fun card. I want to make it work in a lot of decks. Rhyme is basically, is half of an escape rope. It lets your opponent switch their active with one of their benches, and you get to draw 3, which sounds pretty powerful when I lay it out there. But when you have to play Boss or you have to play Guzma because you need to target down a Wailord or a Whalmer before a Wailord gets out of control, it leaves a card like Rhyme off to the side, even though it might synergize with, if I'm playing the Swallet that has, if it has more energy, it does 170 damage for 1 energy or however much it needs to have on it to have more energy in the active. All of a sudden, it's just not as good if that Wailord comes up. So I think that's a card that just, I want to play it. It seems cool. It's got a lot of good uses with it. It can do cool things, but it's just not as powerful in certain situations as a boss or a Guzma. And so Rhyme just really feels unplayable for me.
What about the new Lieutenant Surge? Lets you draw 4 or take a prize depending on what your opponent says.
I don't think I've actually played new GLC since that card's been printed. So I really wanted to try. I saw a deck list the other day that someone was playing Blacephalon. I remember we had talked about it on the podcast about how that card might be a little bit cool with the go down on prizes, like decks like that. So that's where our brain is at with that one still. I want to play it, but obviously it's one of those fun tier decks, maybe not the most competitive.
Yeah.
Although no spoilers, there was, I would say, I don't want to call it fun tier, but there was definitely some fun shenanigans happening at the Full Grip Games finals game. That's why I asked you if you watched it the other day. So we'll definitely have that recap episode coming up. But there was some fun shenanigans. You guys want to know what I said? Don't tell.
I replied to Jeff. He said, did you watch the matches? And I was like, yeah. I watched round 6 to 7.
As a teacher, you're killing me, man. I hear that every day. Every day.
Watch round 6, 7, baby.
Oh God. All right. I'm not gonna cringe anymore. We'll just move on. Josh didn't say anything. I'm gonna mute you. There we go. Better. All right. All right. Next bullet point. Man, you know what I love about Gym Winner Challenge? It's an eternal format, dude. Black, white on.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a small ban list. Everything is great. But man, when cards are getting printed at the power levels that they are, it can feel like a rotating format. Just over the past, 2 years, it has felt like every new set, I've had to buy so many more cards than I had to in the past. I've had to, go through entire stacks of decks, redo decks. Sometimes decks are getting power crept, right? We saw that with Hitmon Bros to this new fighting deck with Ting-Lu and Marshadow and all. That feels like that deck got power crept. So it's just like it can feel like a rotating format. And one of the things that really drew me to Gym Leader Challenge is, hey, I'm going to buy my deck, make minimal changes to it, and go from there. And, for some decks, that's true. And then, some decks every week, it feels like you're having to change what the core of it is. So again, it's a little bit of a hyperbole, Josh, but I mean, it's starting to feel a little bit like a rotating format.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of say the same thing with cards that get banned, card like the double colorless and stuff like that. Whole not meta, but whole archetypes would just fell off because of that. And sometimes whenever a card's printed, whole archetypes could fall off because it's just not worth the play anymore. It was a recent, was it Fighting or something like that? Whenever they got Marshadow and Ting-Lu, there was another card, I believe, in there that just fell off completely. I can't remember what it was.
Another card that fell off completely in Fighting. I mean, no one's playing the Machoke, no one's playing the Machamp anymore. Hitmon Bros isn't a thing. I don't even know.
Or maybe here's a better example. Whenever I was listening to some of the Full Grip stuff, JD was playing the new Fighting Mill deck or Fighting Control or whatever, and he used to be on the Shocklock deck, right? And Shocklock, obviously it's lightning type, weak to ground. You have another fighting deck that's been doing well, getting buffs, this here and that, and then now this has went up and Shocklock has just kind of went, phew, it's not even worth the play anymore because not only is a better control deck available, but it's also, super effective in video game terms against the other control deck. So that might be kind of another example of that.
Yeah. I mean, good cards get printed and all of a sudden your deck rotates out. I mean, all of Lightning feels like it's kind of rotated out, to be honest, which is a big bummer.
Yeah. Lightning has been at real lows lately.
Lightning and Dark. I'm sorry, guys. It's that fighting weakness. Weakness. That's the next one. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Last step. Dude, if you take a break and cards keep getting printed that are so good, it's so hard to get back into the game, dude. We just talked about it. Your deck maybe isn't even playable anymore. And after you've come back from maybe a 3-month, 4-month, maybe a year-long hiatus, you have to basically relearn the format if power creep is, an exponential thing that's happening. I mean, it's just bonkers that you can step away from the game for just a little bit and come back and be like, oh, what does the psychic deck look like now? Oh, completely different? Oh, bummer. I mean, if you think about it, like a year ago, you would have missed out on, like, Zatu is a card you would have missed out. Iron Boulder. You would have missed out on the new Wondrous patch. I mean, you're missing a strong core of what psychic decks have become. Monkey Dory is another one, just by sitting out for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it's not as bad as it could be, because I know in standard format, they have the rotation. So if you're out for 6 months and it happens during rotation, it's a completely different format. And, with them getting like 4 to 5 sets a year, as opposed to, whole sets for the entire format instead of just, cards sprinkled in here and there. It's not as bad, but definitely, whenever better cards are printed of those cards that are being power crept, not necessarily just, well, I guess whenever they print good cards, a lot of the time nowadays, it's a slight power creep because it's kind of hard to be original with some of these new effects because there's over 1 million cards. I mean, they printed in the last 30 years. So,
yeah, for sure.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that too. Let's get into some specific examples because this is what power creep is all about. We got the examples here. Let's talk about where GLC had been, where GLC is going, what it looked like in 2021 when the format was created versus now 2025 November. Good times. And Josh, our first one here. I'm in the stages of grief, and I'm in stage 2, denial. All right. You look at these old stage 2s. I mean, these are ones from the birth of GLC that have seen play. One that recently just got maybe replaced. We got good old Jungle Totem Venusaur, 160 HP, does 90 damage. And of course, its replacement, also 160 HP, but it got a little bit of a damage buff. Yay. Yeah. And then you look at
quite a bit of a damage buff.
Yeah. 50 is a good amount. And then Blastoise and Baxcalibur, obviously increased damage, increased HP. But these haven't been power crept that much, Josh. That's the sad part about this, right?
Well, I mean, you say that. Venusaur and Meganium, same HP, but dude, 2 less retreat is really, really good than having a big boy 4 retreater in the active spot, and you see that in both of these right here. Both of them have 2 less retreat, and that's so much better than having a 4-star guy out there just sitting and not doing anything. And regardless if you're able to get things on them, let's say you get 2 energy on the Venusaur, or I get, how many energy you gotta have? 2 energy? Does 2 energy work like that?
Nah, Josh's mortal enemy.
Dude, can you have 2 energy and it still work as 4, or does it have to be flat 4 with Jungle Totem? I can't.
With Jungle Totem, yeah, it's 2 energy counts. Each one counts double.
And you can retreat with 2, right?
You can retreat with 2. So Meganium would just require 1. Yeah.
You see, it's still even, that much better.
It's better. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. What the point I'm getting at is it should be betterer, right? If we're going to keep going with the gooderness of it, right? It should be betterer. All right. It's not enough. It's still a stage 2. When we get to this next slide, you're just going to see it's not good enough to compete. With all the power creep going on, creep better, Pokemon.
That's the creep part. We're creeping. We're not making it obvious. We're creeping along.
to be fair, this is an example of like an appropriate balance, right? Like if this had happened subtly over time, you would be like, oh, cool, the card game is still at its core what I wanted it to be, right? It's a little bit better attack, a little bit less retreat cost on a stage 2 that's hard to get out. That is appropriate, power level increase. It's not exponential growth or a wild growth, which I think we've already made this joke in our warm up, Josh. But I mean, this is the way that you want card games to grow. Whereas I think this next slide is going to be like, we're seeing some problems.
Before we go, we see some, we're probably going to look at Iron Boulder later.
Mm.
But that being said, you got Venusaur, you got Meganium, which one do you want in the active against Iron Boulder? You don't want either of them, but hypothetically,
Meganium knocks it out, right? Like 140 hits the damage. So I want Meganium 100%. All right.
Dude, 50 is a lot of damage. Like that was crazy whenever I saw Meganium and Venusaur. I'm sad to see this terrible CGI'd version of Venusaur go away. But this Meganium is like so much better. It's crazy.
It's better. It's better, but like it needs like 220 HP. Like, let's be honest. Like it got 50 more attack, but it needed like at least 50 more HP. And then that's where like, again, it's an appropriate change, but it's not at the power level of the format. That's the issue. Format level has crept. So even though these cards are just creeping along and getting a little better, they're still just not at the level of some of these other cards. They're trying to keep up with these GX, EX cards, double prizers, triple prizers, in standard with that 300 plus HP. You've got these single prize cards. They're dealing with those, but in this format, it's just not good. It's just not good enough.
We should ban. What would be the opposite of creep? Obvious power.
I don't sprint.
Yeah. We should ban power sprint. Get rid of that.
Because that's what this is. Yeah, basically.
I know. And Jeff, back in 2021, in the beginning of GLC, on the left here, you'll see you'll see some cards that look familiar, like early format stuff. Colorless was playing this collapsed Snorlax that put itself asleep. That looks familiar, something that we see nowadays, but it hits for 120 for 3 energy, and it's nowhere near as good as what we currently have in the modern form of the GLC. And it's just so funny to see, basics then, the basics now, and how far that it's come, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, right? Because you think about like cards that we have had, we still have the Giratina with the Distortion Door. Giratina is still a very playable card. 130 HP does 130. We still have Necrozma and sticking with the Psychic Vein, which is still really, really good. There's still cards in colorless. Kangaskhan doesn't see as much play, but Kangaskhan is from back then as well. So, it's still a good card, but maybe just not as good as some of the other options that colorless has. But it's just like incredible where like some of those basics are just still really, really good. But we've just got better cards too that just kind of add to that mix. Like adding to the psychic mix, you've got Iron Boulder now. I mean, 170 for 2 energy is kind of basic. I mean, that's just so good. And then like Snorlax is hitting 180. I mean, all 3 of the cards that we have on the basics now side, Snorlax, Iron Boulder, and Okidogi, can take care of all of the stage 2s we just talked about on the previous screen. And that's where like the power creep hasn't been equal, right? Maybe it's fair, Okidogi, Snorlax, and Iron Boulder, maybe you can keep up with some of these cards in standard a little bit better, but it's just not equal.
Equal in this format to where like not every deck has this big basic that you can easily power up really quick and then take out whatever you have in the active, right? They can take out big dudes like, you're referring to earlier, Meganium having 160 HP. I agree that it should probably have, maybe 180, 190 because it's a support Pokemon. It's not necessarily an attacker. but it's not going to get automatically wiped out by a Snorlax or an Okidogi or even an Iron Boulder because it might be out of that 180, 190 range as opposed to just that 160, which everybody's going to be able to hit. Any of those big basics are going to be able to hit that really easy. And they're not hard to reach as well. Like Iron Boulder, I thought at the very beginning, whenever that card came out, regardless to some of the other basics that you had back in the day, it's so easy. Like, you say Necrozma is really good, which it's still a really good card, especially in the more of the special energy build of Psychic and whatnot. But Iron Bundle can very easily attack, first turn going second with a Dimension Valley. And you would think that it'd be really hard to match hand size. I've seen that Psychic players match hand size almost every single time. And it drives me absolutely up a wall because I'm like, how can it be this easy? And just with the card pool that Psychic has, it just makes it so much easier to do so, which makes a card that might have a little bit of power creep. So in this instance, Iron Boulder has the 140 HP, and you don't even have to have a pass card to necessarily compare it to. You can just use like other basics, right? So Okidogi has 130 HP, and a lot of regular big basics back in the day, 120, 130 HP is what you saw. But 140 is one of those numbers which is really odd and just out of range a lot of the time. And Iron Boulder's in that power creep stage right here where it's at 140 HP and just outside a little bit. And it hits for 170 also on top of all that. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so hard to deal with these big basics. And, we always talk about Pokemon because historically it's been a format that has been built around big basics all the way back to like base set Haymaker, right? That was just a deck of big basics.
Yeah.
With cheap, efficient attackers, right? And so it's going to be hard for Pokemon to get away from those roots, right? But when your level of basics goes from 1 to 10, but your stage 2s go from 1 to 5, it's just what's the effort in playing 3 cards in your deck to just have your card get knocked out by a basic, and that's where evolutions are kind of falling off, especially in Gym Leader Challenge, which, evolving is something that a lot of us really, really like to do. Again, it's one of those, favorite moments. It's a core principle of the Pokemon VGC and TCG. So when you make the game and when you power creep it to a point to where it's becoming a little bit more one-dimensional, it just feels bad. And again, I know that Standard is full of stage 2s right now in evolving decks. So again, it's just they're not printing cards for GLC. So I know that power creep here looks very different than it does in other formats. And so it's hard for me to complain too much about this particular point. But if they could just, my one thing, they could just make stage 2s better, I think we'd be fine with where these cards are at. I mean, Okidogi having 230 HP, doing 170 for just the condition, I'm putting here in quotation marks for those of you who are listening, the condition that it has a dark energy attack, it's just not that hard to get going. Whereas Rare Candoing into a Meganium on turn 2 while still having to find energy and attach it to my Genesect or Zarude or something like that is a much taller task to do for it just to be undone with one attack by a Dogi. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you mentioned how easy it is to get Dogi going. It's also super easy to get Dogi going, like extremely easy. And even in some colorless builds, like the more of a turbo colorless, even this Snorlax with 3 energy, you can get going, maybe not the first turn, but you can definitely get it the second turn, So there's all sorts of very quick ways to get these big guys going super quick. And I'm with you on basics getting just power crept like substantially more than stage 2s and maybe some stage 1s. Stage 1 seem to get a healthier balance, right? But basics, let's see if you can get me in the thing right there. Basics here, stage 1's here, stage 2's below. They're off the chart, right? Because they're not even necessarily looked at a lot of the time. And power creep is huge. I think I already mentioned that we're seeing high numbers in standard format, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, even beyond just like what the attackers that we have on screen, like, yeah, we didn't even put Fan Rotom up here. Like, Fan Rotom get searching out 3 Pokemon with 100 HP or less is kind of ridiculous when you look at like some of the other search cards in the format too. You have Squovit as well, really contributing to some of these draw engines. So, you know, printing, like, it's not just the attackers, they're putting really good, you know, abilities on basics. You know, the new Soul Rock and the Lunatone combo, where one's a pretty good attacker and one is discard, draw 3. Like, and the more abilities they print on basics, the efficient attacker, it's really centered around basics right now. And that's where, if I was going to dissect the format and be like, where is the power creep occurring? It's obviously occurring on the basic timeline. Stage 2s, no one's complaining about your stage 2 beating us too bad in the game.
Yeah, 100%. Not necessarily at all. Maybe some stage 1s, but definitely you never hear like, this stage 2 is overpowered.
Ban Excalibur.
I don't know if I want that necessarily, but you know, it's like, would you rather have that with everything? Like, stage 2, this is crazy. Well, we've never had that before. We all, you know, we talk about basics. So maybe if we could get a good mixture of just really powerful stage 1 and stage 2s to bump up to the really powerful basics.
Yeah. Yep. Let's bump them up. Because I mean, I think if you were to be like, oh, there's a stage 2 that's oppressive, it would have to be really, really, really busted for us to even get to that point. Because even with Wailord, right, the discussion is Wailord's a 240, 210 damage dealing behemoth. And we're like, okay, just kill the Wailmer. It's got 130 HP. That's a very reasonable amount that you can do pretty easily. Pass up and KO it. That's one of the solutions for that card. And you're like, hey, it's fine. Whereas like Okidogi on turn 2 is like KOing every single Pokemon you put in front of you. If you stumble a bit, the game just gets run over. And so that's where I'm at. These cards are strong. They're good cards. They have answers. I won't sit here and preach that there's not answers to them. But they are cards that if they could just run away with the entire game. And that's kind of where we're at with the power creep. When one basic can take over an entire game, it's time to make the other cards gooder.
Yes. 100% agree with stage 2s needing to be gooder.
Mm-hmm.
But, it doesn't only affect Pokemon, right? It affects all other cards. And you can see it in, some examples right here of some setup cards, right? So we used to have, and these are still good cards, right? But there's sometimes just a little bit, better cards. One card that we didn't really put up here necessarily is Ball Guy. That is a searcher, right? Where we're searching for ball search cards that can search out our Pokemon. And, even with that being in its spot, sometimes there might be a card that's a little bit better, right? But that's one of those cards that we'll get into later that might not be as creepable per se. But these cards right here that we have, Gloria Bridget, essentially, the same card, 3 basics straight to the bench. We got Sonia, lets you search out 2 basic or 2 basic energy cards, put them into your hand. You don't have to put them on to the bench, but you just keep them in your hand. But, you see these cards right here. You see the likes of Glory as a supporter, as Bridget as a supporter. But then we have a card, and Jeff and I talked about this earlier, Buddy Poffin. And, I was talking about how Buddy Poffin, it lets you search for 2 basics. Granted, they're under 70 HP with that stipulation, but that's still 2 Pokemon on the bench. That Gloria, you have to use your supportive return to get 3 on the bench. So it's, you see a little bit of power creep with that card, being able to search out 2. But the 70 HP or below stipulation really kind of helps that power level from getting too high. But I was talking about earlier, like, what if this card had a discard one instead. I was really surprised that they just got a card and said, hey, you can search out 2 Pokemon and put them onto your bench without having, a discard option on there, which I thought was super interesting. But yeah, we have some of these old search cards and then these new search cards that allow you to do a little bit bigger things like Arvin. Jeff, tell us about Arvin. I love how good Arvin is.
Yeah, Arvin is just like such a good card. I think relatively balanced too. I mean, getting you an item and a tool is just so great. So obviously, like Arvin can get you Buddy Buddy Poffin, but also it might get you TM Evolution. The TMs really playing a big role here. If you're going to be playing like a water deck too, like if you want to get set up with Arvin, it just lets you be so flexible. If you're playing water, you can go get Vulpix, or you can get Basculin plus the retreat tool to get it into the active, and all of a sudden you're helping yourself get set up even more. It's just such a flexible card that's good in a lot of different spots. And then Artisan, I mean, giving everyone access to a Stadium to grab basics is good, and I think it was the right call. It definitely helps the format, but I mean, these are like just such good cards. I mean, before Gloria and Bridget, you drew those cards on turn 3 or 4, and you're like, oh, I've got a dead card in my hand. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I drew Arvin, which is my setup card, but also in the mid game, it can go grab that enhanced hammer that we talked about earlier, or something else to kind of get me in the situation. Escape rope, just such a better, more flexible, more efficient card. I just love it. I love it. And I think if there is a place that you want to see power creep occurring, it is in places like this. They're going to maybe eliminate donks. They're going to let people get set up to play the game. This is the area where power creep needs to be. And that's what I like to see, Josh.
Yeah, I'm loving all the new search cards. Like we had a recent one, Hilda, search for an evolution Pokemon and an energy. You have the new Dawn, a basic, a stage 1 and stage 2. And you have some of these new search cards. Are they any better than Gloria, Sonia, Bridget? Maybe, but like, again, a lot of these cards, you're trying to be like, okay, in most situations, is this card going to be good? And that's why you started to see more Ball Guy being played instead of Bridget and Gloria at one point, because Bridget and Gloria, you had to get 3 basic and put them onto the bench. And, if you had already done all your setup, or like at least got all your basics out, then you were on your way trying to search for all of the evolution cards. And well, you can't necessarily do anything with those 2 anymore. Ball Guy is always useful, right? Especially if you're in search of, those ball search cards. Ball Guy in most situations, especially early to mid game, is so helpful. And that's what I'd like to see Dawn or Hilda be extremely helpful as well as Arizu, getting 3 evolution Pokemon, putting them into your hand as well. So you have all these different types of Pokemon search on supporters and even setup. And I'd like to see where those are going to be, heading as we go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you mentioned all those cards too. We didn't even talk about Clavel, right? Clavel is,
Clavel,
three basics that are 120 HP or less, but they go to your hand. So if you have like an on-play effect, like that's something that Clavel can do. And there's a couple decks where I've seen Clavel be the better option than some other decks. One notably is like an Galarian Articuno deck, where you want that Galarian Articuno into your hand so you can play it onto the bench and use its cruel charge to attach those energies. You can even get the Oricorio that grabs energy from your deck too. So it's just like Gloria, Bridget, Sonia feel a little bit like relics of the past, and we've just seen them get power crept, and not in a bad way. Again, this is what I want to emphasize. Power creep can be bad. Power creep can be good. I think that the more good, efficient setup cards that we have that don't spend your supporter for turn, the better off we will be as a format, because it will encourage us to evolve, especially cards like Buddy Buddy Poffin. Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, I've got a full art of those 3, and I don't get to use them, Jeff, because they've been pushed out. I mean, I could use them, but do I want to be more competitive? Yes, I'd like to have fun. I like winning, which is fun.
And
I having fun, which is winning.
yeah, and that's the problem. And I love Sonya. Sonya is a card. I got a 4 Sonya myself too. I still think Sonya is actually a pretty good card considering it's basically like a Professor's Letter. There are decks that really want Professor's Letter, right? Like Hydro Pump List. I'm sometimes surprised that they don't run Sonya. I get why they don't. There's just so many other options now, especially with Earthen Vessel. But like Sonya's a card I'm like, I like that a lot. Like it's good early, it's good middle, it's good late. Is searching up 2 energy with your supporter the best thing you can be doing? No, but it's better than drawing a Bridget on turn 7. So there's that.
Yeah. And, along with that, honestly, I can't say that spread is dead. I can't say it. But I truly see a lack thereof of spread being played.
Yeah. So let's talk about then, Josh, because like early Gym Leader Challenge, I wouldn't necessarily like spread was big, but they were like cards that were spread focused, right? Blacephalon, the Raikou that we've seen banned, Heatmore was a staple in Fireless, and that just hasn't been the case. Psychic Spread was a big deal with Psychic Counters, even Lightning Spread to some degree. And you just kind of look out at the format now. And of course, again, like we're talking like peak competitive, deck lists that come into us from tournaments. Obviously, spread might be tearing it up at your locals. And if that's the case, please someone play a bench bear. Please play your bench.
That's all you got to do.
But like, you look at where we're at now, and Ting Lu fighting decks did just do really well. Not at the Full Grip Games tournament that we had a couple days ago, but at the previous one. So again, there are cards that can spread damage that are still doing well. But I mean, just like we've got, Shaman as a bench barrier, Lightning, which is notoriously the worst deck against spread, got kind of like a pseudo bench barrier. What's that card? The Gigabolt is its attack. It is 90 to itself. It's one of the Flying Tornadoes cards. What is it? The Lightning one, Josh.
The Flying Tornadoes.
Yeah. Because there's the 3 weird cloud flying dudes. This is one of the BGCs I didn't play, and there's the Lightning one. Whatever. You guys all know what I'm talking about. It's a pseudo bench barrier if it's in the active.
Isn't it Tornadoes?
Tornadoes is the colorless one, right? Someone's gonna chew me up in the comments. That's okay. You know what? I don't know a card. It's in my Lightning deck right here. I promise. I just can't think of the name for it right now. But you look at that. So bench barriers are existing. Water decks are playing Rough Seas now because it's so good with their Wailord. Malin Lana is a reasonable card to have in your deck. It's just like, Parallel City, paralleling yourself has never been more popular. Big Basics are running the format. Fighting at any point can put Machoke back in their deck. It's just like spread feels at its worst. So whereas Josh can't say spread is dead, I'm a little bit closer to that sentiment. It won't stop me from playing it, but that's where my brain is at. Spread just feels kind of non-existent.
Thunderous.
Thank you, Josh.
Oh my goodness, that's so easy. Why are we dumb?
That's all right. All right, we're not all right.
I caught a Thunderous today on Pogo. How you'd think I'd remember?
That's on you, dude. You should have known that.
I know. You put up a good argument, Jeff. All these different things, and the only argument that I have for this is that, I live for spread. I'm a spread fanatic. Does it win all the time? Like 10% of the time, I'm winning all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
if you're playing spread, you're winning. Now this is an argument I always kind of have with myself. Spread might be bad for like gameplay when you think about the Pokemon TCG. Like, I don't think you want spread to be good because like spread being good is no fun for most people because it makes benching difficult. It makes evolving difficult. It makes playing the game difficult. I mean, there's just so many factors. And spread is so unique to the Pokemon TCG, which is why I love to see it happening and existing. But you can tell by the way that Pokemon is approaching spread and the way that the format is approaching spread, that's definitely something that we don't want to see on top. I mean, when we had the amazing rare Kyogre on top, people were not happy. Doing 80 to everything was not a good thing. When amazing rare Raikou up here was doing 120 to 2 things as early as turn 2 because of the way that things were set up with blowing up a Magneton and attaching counter energy. Things were not good. So, it's going to be a good thing that spread has to be dialed back again. And then people can choose to respect spread or people can choose not to. And when they don't respect it, we see what happened with Ting Lu a couple of weeks ago. Things get spreaded real quick.
I would say that I think that, spread in and of itself, inherently isn't like big spread, like you said, like Kyogre is not good for the format. Little spread is just not enough, right, for the format or anything like that. But Snipe is a form of spread, and I'm a big fan of sniping in the instance of Raikou taking 2 at the same time and being able to do that turn after turn after turn without any hindrance necessarily. Well, I get you have to discard, right?
Nope, you don't.
I remember, it's been so long. Okay, that's why I said that. Yeah, being able to do that turn after turn is kind of hard. But if we made it more like Kyogre, with the splash attack 180, put all the rest in your hand, that might be a lot easier to get on board with. If Raikou, you either discarded 2, discarded all 3, put the energy into hand, I think it would still be around if it had that stipulation.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where you see, power creep versus, balance, right? Like Amazing Raikou on its own is kind of a difficult card to use, but there were so many things that kind of enabled it. And so it got hit with the ban, but those things that enabled it weren't really good enough on their own. So, I think that's when we see, the other way to police the format, right? When power creep happens, what do? You make appropriate bans. And, Andrew Mahone made a very, very good decision to get rid of Raikou. I mean, I've had amazing rare Raikou attacking into me on turn 2 with a luxurious cape on. And there's just really no good way to really handle that. It's just tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, spread, I think, got power crept out. That's why it's on this list. Just the cards to combat it got better than it. And I think that's where we're at currently in the moment. But it just takes, again, one other card to get printed in the opposite direction. Maybe the anti-bench barrier. Maybe instead of giving lightning a bench barrier, it says damage can't be prevented to bench Pokemon. And all of a sudden, hey, spread is back. Would that be fun, or would that be kind of bad? What?
Say that again.
If you have,
I was hearing you.
An anti-bench barrier card. So instead of a card that's like damage is prevented to your bench Pokemon, you had the damage can't be prevented. It'd be kind of funny, like if it interacted the same way that like a
an anti-bench barrier.
Yeah. Like
I would love that. If that would be kind of like. That would be an interesting card, but I feel like it would be kind of overpowered at the same time to a point, because I don't mind the protecting from spread, because that's not necessarily overpowered. You can just gust it. I don't know. That's super interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, Silent Lab is that, but Silent Lab is like bowl and field blowerable, right? But like it would kind of, I guess, like in my head at least, it interacts the same way that like ability lock Pokemon do. It's like who's ever in play first dictates what happens. I don't. Interesting thought, but I think it might be a little bit annoying because like if you're a spread deck, you're obviously going to try to get it down ASAP. Whereas if you're another deck, you're going to be trying to look to set up potentially. So who knows? I don't know. A thought, a power creep thought.
Yep. Just one of those, speaking of thoughts, I am over here thinking about I see draw supporters then, draw supporters now, but I still see draw supporters then now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in this case right here, we're just talking about, we see N, for example, right? So N, both players shuffle their cards into their deck, draw as many prize cards that they have remaining, right? So that's a very powerful effect, very powerful card. And then later on, we see Marnie, which Marnie is I draw 5, you draw 4. We shuffle our hands, put it at the bottom of the deck. And then later on, we see Iono. Iono is also an extremely good card because not only does it allow you to, mess with your opponent's hand and interrupt that hand, but it kind of makes it extremely hard for them to possibly draw into it again because they have to also put it onto the bottom of their deck. So we got N and Marnie. They, I'm not going to say anything. We got Iono, right? And we got a really good card. I really like this card. I think it's an extremely good card at power creep in a good way. Because within, they have the ability to then draw into what they just got rid of, which sometimes you don't want that to happen. I've had multiple occasions where I've been end, but I just draw right back into what I had, that game-winning play, right? Iono does not allow that to happen. Marnie does not allow that to happen because you put it on the bottom of your deck. That's one of my favorite ways of saying that. But N is such a good card, regardless, still, that it is both uncreepable and creepable at the same time. And who would have thought, right? So I really like that. And then you have Lily's Determination, such a powerful card. We have Cynthia, which is a shuffle draw 6. Lily's Determination is a shuffle draw 6, but if you have 6 prize cards remaining, you can shuffle draw 8. And that is almost like a full board with a chorus, right? And, some of these new cards that are coming out, like draw-wise, are just phenomenal. And I've been so excited to see them come out. I honestly, at this point, don't know what I would want to have after this, right? Because some of these are just so good. It's like, I don't know what else they could print.
Yeah, it's hard to see where they could go from here. And when you look at the draw supporters, you look at what the power creep has been or what it is, it's just more options, right? Like you look at in great disruptive just supporter, and now we've just gotten more options. And so disruption has in itself become easier. I mean, this feels like if I Vulpix, Alolan Vulpix 2 cards to my hand, my opponent's got all 3 of these cards in their deck, there's a decent chance that my hand gets disrupted and those 2 cards I just grabbed out of my deck are now going back into it, So just having more options feels like a power creep. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't make gameplay good because I always think that comeback supporters are great and these disruptive draw supporters definitely fall into that. And then on the opposite side, I think cards that help you set up, and Lily's Determination is exactly that, right? At the beginning of the game, you're going to have 6 prizes. Seeing more cards to let you continue playing the game is just a better thing. And that's where Colress has maybe struggled a bit. We loved Colress. Colress is such a good card. I mean, Colress was such a staple at the beginning, and it was such a pricey staple. And again, pricey here being like $5, $8, at a time. I think might have seen it 12 at some point for its base price. But it's just it's bad early when you want to be drawing more cards. And so when Lily's got printed, and obviously there are other cards that have some downsides with Colress, notably the Dragon, was it the Kyurem that does, 110 damage to 3 Pokemon if there's a Colress in your discard pile. Just Colress just isn't worth it anymore. Just play Lily's. I mean, sure, Lily's is maybe less cards in the late game, but you're kind of okay with that. Shuffle draw 6 consistently is good, and then you get that caveat shuffle draw 8 early. It's just so good. And Erica's Hospitality, he has a card that used to see a lot of play. I was actually surprised when I was doing the research for this episode. I was going through Limitless and looking at all the 2021 lists that were winning, and I was like, wow, Erica's Hospitality saw a lot of play back then, and you just don't see it as much now. it's just the condition on it, right? You have to have 4 or fewer cards in hand. And since like almost every type has a pretty decent, draw support Pokemon, having 4 or fewer cards in hand can be a tall task at times. So just seems like an unconditional draw supporter is where people want to be most of the time. But hey, I still see Erica's hospitality played all the time. So it's there. Just the options for getting for draw supporters is crazy, Josh.
I know, and most of the time you're only playing like 3 to 4 of them. So you have Marnie, Iono, and Lily's Determination, Cynthia, and those are pretty much your main ones that you'll see a lot of the time. And then every now and then you'll see something else.
And the fact that like there are so many good draw supporters and we're seeing decks play maybe fewer than ever is maybe telling about how precise the format is getting, right? You're not hoping to just like shuffle and wheel into the cards you want anymore. You've got cards to just go and find them now. And I think that's the next slide.
Yeah. And it used to be like 7 draw supporters was like not unheard of.
Yeah.
Like having a lot of draw supporters. Cause I think I have some pictures of having like 5 to 7 draw supporters. And nowadays it's like 3, 4.
I mean, it's definitely not 6, 7 anymore. But
6, 7, bro.
But obviously,
6, 7.
You've got the basic dragon decks, that just for playing Marnie is their one draw card, right? Like, so that's going to lead us to this next bit, Josh. I'll let you take it away.
I know. We got search engines. Actually, these are some of my favorite cards. I love draw cards just as much as the next person, but search engines are a lot of the time what gets your deck going, right? So we have search cards from back in the day, Guzman Hala. We got Scala for items, teammates. If you got knocked out prior, you get to look for 2 cards of your choosing, put them into your hand. And nowadays we got Arven, which lets you search for a tool card and an item. You got Course's Tenacity, a Stadium, and a Special Energy, or I think just an energy card, which allows you to look for a basic or a special, which has some different things. We mentioned Hilda earlier, which is an evolution Pokemon and an energy card. So you have all these different options here. But like, to see Guzman Hala, which you have to discard 2 cards to get the full effect, which is a Stadium, Special Energy, and a tool. Well, Arven is, Course's Tenacity is like half that, 2/3 that, a Stadium and a Special Energy, right? So sometimes, that gives us the ability to have a little bit more of a redundancy factor. But to me, that Guzman Hala and Course's Tenacity they're not the same card, because I still think Guzman Hala can be way more powerful, has the option to be way more powerful. But that you get the Course's Tenacity with no condition, right? The only condition is you've used your supporter for the turn, and you can search for those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Arven, all these different weird searchable cards. Like Scala isn't really that great anymore because it just lets you search for a trainer card. It lets you search for any trainer card, which might be really good in a niche situation. But Arven, Irida, Hilda, Course's Tenacity also search you these trainer cards. Granted, Scala is a little bit more flexible. It could be anything. But if you already know what you want, you can put that card in there that searches what you want, right?
Yeah. In Scala, if you can't grab the supporter, you can grab a supporter, but you can't play it that same turn.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with Scala. So like, is Scala just a worse Arven most of the time? Yes. And you hit it right on the head, Josh. It's the conditions, right? Like Goose Hall Teammates, they have these conditions. Teammates is any 2 cards. Think about how many times with Teammates you're finding an item card or maybe a switch out, like a tool or something like that. Well, Arven can just do that at any point in the game. And so this is where like it's this exact definition of power creep. These cards are becoming more efficient. The cost is lower to play them, and they're effectively just 2-for-1s at any point in the game. That's why they're so good. They are a little bit particular in their uses, but they are just so good in that fact. Are we ever going to stop playing Guzman Hala and Teammates? No, because a card like Guzman Hala only gets better when more cards are printed because there's more specific things you can search for. So, those cards are going to stay the same, but we're just going to keep getting better and better search cards. And as we've seen, it doesn't seem to be the search cards that are getting cut from people's decks. It seems to be the draw supporters that are getting cut from our decks. So draw supporters are getting a little bit power crept out of the format because the decks are getting so efficient at what they're able to search out and fish out of the decks.
Yeah, it's actually crazy that draw support is slowly making its way. I am still in that scarcity mindset where like I need draw support. Like I think I still play 4 pretty regularly. I think most people play 4 pretty regularly, but if I played any less than that would make me feel like I'm playing an unplayable deck, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I'm not going to be able to draw. Yeah.
I still go through my deck and I count the numbers of draw supporters, and I'm like, I feel like 4 or 5 is the magic number I want to have. But again, you see that dragon deck playing that singular Marnie, and you're like,
yeah,
they're doing just fine over there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's awesome to see decks like that, but mentally, man, I gotta have that 4 to 5.
Yeah, you definitely want to have a way out of a bad hand. But I mean, Core Tenacity gets you Artisan, could get you Capture Energy. That's getting you set up and kind of out of a bad hand. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Josh, I'm sure we missed something.
Yeah, we missed probably 99% of it all, right? We only scratched the surface, and it's up to you guys to let us know down in the comments what cards you consider examples of power creep yourself, because maybe you have a card that we did not mention, or maybe you have a card that you think nobody's even thought of that has had power creep. And while you're writing that comment down below and just letting us know what you think it is, leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, also subscribe to the channel. We just hit 300 not too long ago. And, this is a new channel, Jeff, because we used to be on your personal channel. Then we went and, separated the podcast, and we need to get back to that 1,000 number, right? So it's up to you guys to help us get there. And, again, let us know what you guys think is going to power creep, what cards you think have been there, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm excited to learn about. But also subscribe to us, like Josh said.
Yeah.
We
have all sorts of examples that we gave you guys, so I'm not going to have another one right here.
No, let's move on. Because you know what we haven't done in a while, Josh?
Quick Attack!
Oh, yeah. This is, I think, my favorite segment that we do. I don't think we actually have any other segments. I think we just, Quick Attack is it.
Yeah. It's either the podcast and the segment, right?
Yeah.
So, we haven't done this segment in a little bit. Super fun segment where Jeff and I have 30 seconds each to argue a point or just say something about a topic. And then, we relinquish that 30 seconds immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no pushback, no nothing. One of us is going to lead with the topic, switch over, and then whoever's talking at the end of that topic will start the next topic, right? So it's always a fun segment. A lot of the time, we don't discuss this beforehand, and we also sometimes, I don't even know sometimes if I have an opinion on it, right? Because we just pick topics that we just see randomly people bring up, right?
Yeah. This one, all the topics are a little bit related to power creep, though. So there's at least that. So, we got a
power creep themed
Quick Attack. And since I'm talking right now, Josh, I'll lead you right into our first topic. Hey, GLC's pretty fast these days, Josh. Don't you think so?
You're wasting seconds, Jeff.
Oh, this is for you. I thought I was leading you into it.
Oh, this is for me. Okay, never mind. Yes, it's really fast, especially with Okie Dokie. You can have 2 energy. You're getting for 170. You have 230 HP. Raging Bolt gets rid of your babies super quick. And as well as Iron Boulder being able to attack so quickly, I think that GLC, big basic wise, is going to push a lot of good things out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's such a quick format now. It's much quicker than when I first started. And as someone who really enjoyed the initial gameplay of Gym Leader Challenge because of longer lasting games and because of all the back and forth and the 1 KO at a time with the maybe working towards a 2 KO or 3 KO turn to maybe come back and win, I'm a little sad. A little sad about where the current format stands. It's not the GLC I remember. Well, Josh can't keep up. I mean, this is talking about spending money on Gym Leader Challenge cards. And I don't know about you, but I just feel like I can't keep up with the cards that are coming out and what cards I need to buy. Even though we do set reviews and set releases, I'm just like, I have no idea. I go to TCG Player. I'm trying to pick out what cards I need for my decks. It's hard for me to keep track of what I got and it's hard for me to keep track of what I need to buy.
Bro, you got money?
You know I don't.
Yeah, bro. It's sometimes it's really hard to keep up with, especially in the sense of your bling, right? Because these new sets that come out, especially nowadays with everything so expensive, it's hard to keep up with bling. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different cards coming in, and there's so many different decks and new archetypes that you can build. It's super hard to get and keep in the rotation. But speaking of that, right? We've got uncreepable cards. I think one of the best, most uncreepable cards, and I mentioned it to Jeff earlier, so hopefully he didn't plan on stealing it because I think it is Versus Seeker. I think that is one of the most uncreepable cards in the format because it's like Lusamine for one, but it's an item, right? You can get a supporter and use it immediately. I think it's one of the most powerful item cards printed in the TCG, allowing you to use a supporter.
Yeah, and I don't want to sit here and say there aren't any uncreepable cards because I could very clearly see some supporters just getting switched to items and all of a sudden it's like power crept, right? We saw it with Bridget and Gloria all of a sudden being replaced by Buddy Poffin. So just imagine like not even counter catcher, just like an item boss. Like that's power creep. Or maybe, Pokemon might just add draw 3 at the end. You get Hex Maniac here plus draw 3. So like Guzma, Hex Maniac, those are my two I'll say. But hey, they'll tag draw 3 on the end of those. All right, the one I wanted to start with, the next one. Hey, tiers in GLC. Do we need to start being like, my deck is this power level to each other? And, you see this in Commander where they've got like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these different levels of what their deck might be. And then they've got like certain bits that they need to like reach to get to this level, whether that's certain cards that are considered game changers or not. Is this a good idea for GLC? I don't know, but it's something to consider.
You mentioned tiers in Magic. We have Genesis and Yu-Gi-Oh! And in Genesis and Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards have certain points allotted to them. So, you can have 100-point deck and you could play one card that's worth 100, 2 cards worth 50, so on and so forth. So I honestly think it would make GLC quite unfun, but it would definitely level out power.
Yeah, I think, I didn't think I said it, whether or not I agree with the tiers or not. But yeah, I do not think we need tiers at this moment, but at all.
When it comes to retro GLC, retro being 4 years ago, I'll play it in 10 years. I'll play in 10 years. That's me. I'll relinquish the rest of my time to Jeff.
Yeah. Obviously it might take a while because again, the format is so young, like Josh mentioned about whether we're going to think fondly about like the first couple of years, like, let's play XY, the Sun and Moon, like the original format, and just like relive that nostalgia. Right. But I think we'll get to a point where we'll be like, let's play retro GLC, but not even like, older sets, just like the beginning sets of what Gym Leader Challenge used to be. And even then we might see like no ban list tournaments pop up and these sorts of things. I think it's just a matter of time before, the format speeds up so point that people really crave that nostalgia of a slower, more gentler time in Gym Leader Challenge. When you could play a 120 attacking Snorlax.
Yeah.
But GLC in 2 years, man, what does it look like? I mean, if we continue with this power creep, we're going to be drawing 10 on turn 1. if they don't change the rules, I think everyone's going to be able to do a KO on their, turn one going second, just based on we're going to have like one attack for 170. I do have faith that maybe they'll make stage 2s a little bit easier to get out. I think we'll have access to rare candy earlier in the game, and that should help stage 2s, but that's my hope for 2 years.
GLC in 2 years, the basics are 300 HP, hit for 600. Stage 2s are 160 HP to retreat, hit 140 max, and it's going to be an awesome world out there. You're going to play one basic in your deck and 2 basic energy because everything else just immediately attaches it. You win.
I just want the game to be slow.
Man, that was a pretty fun quick attack there, Jeff.
It was quick. Maybe we need longer than 30 seconds. But you know what? People are sick of us talking.
I wonder who won, me or you. You can let us know down in the comments too.
I think you won, Josh. You're glad.
I think it was pretty even. I think they're pretty even. But yeah, we have this meme. We always have a meme at the end. And this is how Jeff and I have been feeling lately. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was like, man, this is how I feel. I explained in detail this meme right here and what it means. And, watching people play at the Fulgurt games, 3K, watching people play at regionals, watching people being actually able to play to locals. And this is just me staring at it on, wishing good things upon people, wishing good times, good draws, no bad prizing, and myself just not even playing.
Dang. I've been with you there too. I don't think I've played since, in between these last 2 sets, I don't think I've played. Good news though. Tomorrow I do get to go play at my locals, so I'm excited about that.
Yes, sir.
And so
yes, sir.
No idea what deck I'm going to play. Might even bust out some grass spread, Josh. Who knows?
Oh,
feeling a little spicy.
A little jump bluff, a little rapid strike, energy. What is that tool?
No, I think I might be off the rapid scroll. I think I might be on one of the triples plus blind side. It's a little easier to pull off these days.
I will never be off the scroll.
Everyone's playing 70 HP basics now.
Yeah, but yeah, whatever.
That's just one more Celebi attack. You know what? You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, that's one Celebi attack. Well, that brings us to the end, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, what we had to say about power creep. Let us know down in the comments whether you enjoyed the power creep episode or not. We've been trying a new thing, kind of talking about different aspects of the Gym Leader Challenge. It's been quite fun. We kind of have a little bit of a learning session, on the go sometimes as we speak, right? So it's really fun to kind of do some of these episodes, but remember to stay thankful. Jeff, do you have any closing remarks?
No, just I hope that our podcast continues to get gooder.
Me too, man. Me too. But I've been Joshua. This has been Jeff. This has been the Unfaced Facts podcast. And we'll see you guys in the next one.